folks. It's time now to start our professional program to amplify what it means to be ready today, more lethal tomorrow, and more lethal and ready tomorrow. So let us begin. It is my pleasure now to introduce the Commanding General of the 101st Airborne Division, Air Assault, Major General Brian Winski, for a local command welcome. Brian?
All right, good morning. Hey, to our Vietnam veterans, once again, we stand on your shoulders here. The 11th Air Assault, the 1st Cav, the 101st, you ushered in the dawn of helicopter warfare in Vietnam, and we study the battles you fought, and again, we stand on your shoulders. Welcome home, and thanks for being here. To all our senior leaders, so many mentors and aviation and combined arms luminaries here, too many to list. Thank you for returning to Middle Tennessee here. On behalf of the 101st Airborne Division Air Assault and our 160th partners at Fort Campbell, welcome. It's great to see you all, and you should know that the doors to Fort Campbell are always open to you. I'm confident the dialogue over the next few days is going to continue to help shape Army Aviation's contributions to the combined arms fight, both now and well into the future. Last year, General Pappas joined this conference from Afghanistan, and he talked about reattaining some of the capacity we needed for large-scale air assaults. And I think the theme of my remarks here are how, with that additional capacity, we need to return to some of the training reps on the large-scale air assaults, and I'll talk a little bit about what we're learning from the past and applying as we look forward. So I had the privilege of returning to the 101st in February, and it's great to be back home. That transition from Pentagon Chairborne to the 101st Airborne is an easy one to make. I first pulled into Fort Campbell in 1989, and what struck me when I arrived at that post as a young second lieutenant was that sign right inside Gate 4 there inside the T.C. Freeman Gate, and it said, "Welcome to Fort Campbell, home of the 101st Airborne Division Air Assault, the best and most powerful division in the United States Army. Salute with pride." That sign really struck me. And the ethos it engendered really inspired me, and I think everyone who saw it. But to the unknowing, that sign may have come across as a little bit boastful, and frankly, we kind of asked, what is it that makes the 101st the best and most powerful division in the Army? Well, back then, this is late 80s, early 90s, in a 6-month period of time, we routinely conducted mega golds, large-scale air assault operations, taking over Vagal DZ and Robinson training area up in central Kentucky and Fort Knox and places like that, and really stretched the division's legs. And I saw firsthand that inextricable link and the incredibly powerful relationships that existed across the combined arms air assault team of infantry, aviation, artillery, engineers, sustainment, etc. We conducted, again, large-scale air assaults routinely. I had a great relationship with flight leads from 5101 and my fellow PLs there, and those relationships existed at every single echelon. Voices were familiar on the radio in the middle of the night, and we were able to conduct very complex things very routinely. We all conducted tough, challenging training together, and we soon found ourselves in Saudi Arabia and eventually Iraq, where we struck from the sky as was envisioned by our forefathers, like William Lee, H.O. Kennard, and all the vertical envelopment luminaries. The 101st fired the first shots of the war with Task Force Normandy, cracking the enemy's air defense networks, and we executed multiple air assaults, as you see in the depiction here, all over about 150 kilometers, where we projected 1st Brigade into Cobra, 2nd Brigade followed and pushed on to Viper, 1st, 2nd, 3rd of the 101st and 217 from both of those locations struck the enemy in E.A. Thomas. We projected the Rakasans up to cut the enemy's line of egress in the Euphrates River Valley and A.O. Eagle, and that was all over a 5-day period of time. And as you look at some of the data there, these are large-scale, incredibly complex operations that we sometimes made look a little too easy. So it was that moment that it became apparent that that sign wasn't boast, it was a statement of fact. And that was apparent not just to us, but to the Joint Force. And General Schwarzkopf said the thunder of Desert Storm was the combined arms, the Air Force in the armor, and the 101st was the lightning of Desert Storm. Again, we pummeled the enemy and struck their points of vulnerability faster and deeper and with a tempo that he just couldn't keep pace with. That success was a classic portrayal of what a highly trained team of teams can do when you pour out a lot of sweat on the training field. You suffer less blood lost on the battlefield. So fast forward to 2003. General Miller summarizes my point perfectly, our point perfectly. Ready forces can execute bold operations, striking enemy vulnerabilities and doing so at a tempo we can't react to. We can assume and mitigate inherent elevated risk if they're well trained, they have lots of reps training together in a complex environment. And while I'm not fixating on fighting the last war, there's much to be learned from Desert Storm and March of 2003. So as we know, the threats that exist and the adversaries we face has the Army focused, as the National Defense Strategy dictates, on large-scale combat operations against a sophisticated threat. Vertical envelopment, joint forcible entry will be central to that, and this is TRADOC's version of a complex multi-domain type of fight. And as you can see, the centerpiece of it right there is an air assault JFE right into the heart of the enemy's vulnerabilities. That's going to be a key element of the operational framework for every significant high-end contingency response we could possibly imagine. As depicted, the portrayal or visualization, on this portrayal and visualization of multi-domain operations, vertical envelopment and rapid array of forces in position of advantage will be central components, and they're not going to be 5-ship, single-lift air assaults. So we have to get back to the habitual relationships and routinely execute the complex, large-scale air assaults, so when called upon to do so, we attain the kind of strategic impacts and results we saw in 1991 and again in 2003. We live in a resource-constrained environment. Everyone here knows that all too well. Tough decisions have to be made, and there's challenges to be sure, but we're charting a path to get there, including building out some of the additional capacity in our CH-47 ultimate capacity and alignment with some reserve component aviation units to grow the additional depth and capacity needed. Over nearly 2 decades of fighting in Afghanistan and Iraq, our air crews have honed their skills, and they're second to none. We, the entire Army, have conducted countless small-scale air assaults since 2003, but have infrequently conducted large-scale air assaults. And the mechanics may be the same, but the complexity, as we all know, of a brigade combat team air assault with multiple lists is vastly different and much harder to synchronize and execute. In order to mitigate risk and reduce friction, we need to maximize the value of our training through developed habitual relationships and shared training experiences. And with our CAB now back from Afghanistan, that is our focus. Collectively, we've worked hard to standardize aviation processes across the enterprise. Working hand in glove with Rucker, the 101st recently updated our Gold Book to better align with Fort Rucker's standardized aviation brigade TACSOP where applicable. However, doctrine and SOPs only get you so far. It's the habitual training relationships that not only mitigate risk, but speed up planning cycles and decision-making in dynamic, high-threat environments. So habitual relationships matter, the relationships within the 101st, and also the relationships across the enterprise, including those with our industry partners, our Fort Rucker and TRADOC teammates, our 18th Airborne Corps and FORSCOM teammates, the AMC and AMCOM teams, and everyone working on future vertical lift. That's why this gathering is so important. So, thanks for all you do. Whether you're a green suiter or a government civilian, one of our industry partners, or a member of one of our partner nations, we all have the same goal of a safe and secure world. So I look forward to the discussions over the next couple days. And again, welcome, Air Assault.
Thank you so much. Now, I'm a little out of school, but I went up to Major General Winski's and Major General Pappas's change of command. And the first time I met him, he said, "I will be there at Quad A. It is too important to this division and what we do." Just so you know, he made it here today while he has a team from the 101st that, the last time I checked, is in first place in the Ranger competition. He came here today and is taking off shortly to get down there and support his team. So, Brian, again, thank you so much. They won it. They won it. All right, I got an update.